Welcome back to my IDE. In last sections, we understood what is transformation and actions, and we also learned couple of executions to how to read the CSV file, JSON file, and parquet files. Let's revisit them very quickly. So we understood that how to read a CSV file. It is very much straightforward that we need to instantiate the Spark session object using the builder method, and then you need to provide a master, application name, and get or create. It will eventually going to return us an instance of Spark session, and by using which you can do a read operation on top of that, and you can provide multiple options as well as configuration while reading the CSV file. You have to provide the entire path of it, and then when you perform a specific action, you will see an output, which is df. In our case, df.show. Show is an output which eventually going to show us the result which we are trying to read it from here. One thing which I wanted to mention here, which is master. By that, master is the master URL for the cluster where we wanted to deploy, whether we want to deploy this on the driver, on the worker node, or we wanted to run our program locally. So right now, as we are working locally in the IDE, we mentioned it as a local machine here. We mentioned master URL as in local, but let's say when we want to deploy this on a cluster, and in that too we want to deploy it using a cluster mode. In that case we wanted to use here a specific deploy master type. Master is the master URL, and by specifying the option of master, we specifically tell Spark that where to execute our code. As we are right now working in our local, our master will definitely be a local. Let's say your Spark installation hosts somewhere else, then you, in that case, you need to provide an URL into your master. There is one more option which is of deploy mode, which is client and cluster. I have a complete different lecture on to make you understand about the deployment type, which is very much in detail. So let's park the deploy mode for that session. Coming back to our implementation and the understanding of transformation and action, this is the very basic fundamental that whenever you read a specific file, it is going to give you a data frame. But then this data frame is of no use until and unless you perform any action. Hope you remember the definition of an action. Action is something which is generating an output, and transformation is something which is returning you a new RDD or a data frame, right? So whenever you see a new data frame created, it must be a transformation, and whenever you see an output to getting generated, that is your action. Here we are reading the CSV file. The same way you can use a JSON API to read the JSON file. In our case, the df.show is definitely the action, and when we say df.count, again this is an action. So this action will perform, and whenever this perform, it is eventually read and execute all the transformation. As we mentioned previously, transformation is a lazily evaluated function. So until and unless you trigger any sort of action, your transformation is not going to be executed. Let's say we have one more example where we wanted to read multiple files from a folder. So there can be a use case where we need to read all the files which has same structure. By structure, what I mean is same type of column, data types, and same number of columns, and all these files are resides inside one single folder. You may have some scenario where you need to read all that files and generate one data frame out of it. So in that case, Spark itself handle it properly. What we need to do is we need to give the path till the folder, and then we need to perform hash trick, which eventually tells Spark that that Spark needs to read all the files which is presented inside the JSON file folder. Let's execute this and try to understand. So in JSON file, I am explicitly telling my Spark to read all the files. Now let's go to this folder and see what all files we have. So we are having that into data, under that we are having into JSON files. So data and then JSON files. I am having two different set of files here. Okay, and then I'm performing a count operation. So my data frame should count both of these files total number of record. Let's see first how many records one file contains. So let's back to our program, which is read JSON, and which is reading the same file, which is wiki data type dict, which is this one, and try to perform the count. I did not did much of the architecture here. I just copy pasted the same file and renamed it by _1. So both the files should contain same number of records. So let's count the first file and see what is the total number of record we have. The program got executed and we saw 152 number of records in the file. Now as we replicated the same file with renaming it, there must be a 304 total number of record if we read this code, which is specifically asking Spark to read all the files under JSON files and try to perform a count operation, which is ultimately our action. Let's execute and see how Spark behaves in this case. As you can see, it printed 304 files. So to perform this action and to be useful with all the files format, you should make sure that all the files should be in the same structure, containing the same columns and with the same data type. In that case, Spark will make your job very much easy and club all the files and generate one single data frame out of it. Hope you understand this concept of the basic understanding and reading of CSV, JSON and parquet files.